Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for 16 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs for all. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. We're meeting with Justin Howe, the CEO of HTeaO. And HTeaO offers 26 handcrafted flavors of ultra-premium caffeinated and decaffeinated tea varieties in both sweet and unsweet options at each location, and its own proprietary water filtration system with the same consistent flavor no matter what location. We're going to talk to Justin about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032. That's
franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Justin Howe, the CEO of HTeaO. And HTeaO offers 26 handcrafted flavors of ultra-premium caffeinated and decaffeinated tea varieties in both sweet and unsweet options at each location, as well as its own proprietary water filtration system for the same consistent flavor, no matter the location. And let's bring Justin in. Hi, Justin. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
You bet. Good morning, Marty. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Justin. It's finally great to have you on the show because I've been following you for a while now. So we always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from today, Justin?
I'm in my office in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, fantastic. Is it cooling off a little bit in Texas?
110 last week. It's about 80 degrees right now, so it's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had the rain.
Okay, well, that's good. 80 degrees almost feels cold, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. Well, you know, I was researching the background of HTeaO, Justin, you know, and it's a very interesting story. And you were kind of there at the beginning, so you know the whole history. I thought, you know, maybe you could tell our listeners about the history and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, just for context, we consider ourselves the Starbucks of iced tea. first to market ahead of trend. Trend being a long-term consumer behavior pattern. We started in a hamburger restaurant in 2008. Yeah. We were, I was a real estate developer and a home builder and owned an aircraft management company at the time. And the economy was, as you probably remember, very unstable. Yep. And, we were always trying to figure out how do we reinvent ourselves in every business. Right. At the time, we owned quite a few other companies, too, construction companies and such, and several consumer-facing local, small businesses. And one of the ideas for the hamburger restaurant was to add 6 flavors of pure, broadleaf, fresh, sweetened with pure cane sugar iced tea, if it wasn't a sweet flavor. And the goal was just to get hamburger sales up, and it worked. The first year, we saw about a 15% increase in hamburger sales. Wow. And then, thankfully, the economy imploded, the real estate market in particular, with all the subprime lending crash and the short on the credit default swaps. And so the shopping center that the hamburger restaurant was in, was owned by an institutional investor. It was a very large center, and it went from about a 95% occupancy down to a 60% occupancy. And thankfully, my parents who owned the hamburger restaurant were financially stable enough to sort of expand into a contracting market. My home building business was slow, to say the least, and so my stepdad was able to take down a 35,000 square foot pad site in front of this hamburger restaurant from the institutional landlord, which is a very difficult thing to do in any case, especially if you're a mom and pop. Right. And we built a new hamburger restaurant. And, of course, my construction company got the contract to build. And so I was excited. And then my stepdad and my mom decided to put this 1,200 square foot end cap, drive-through only, iced tea concept on the end of the hamburger restaurant. We thought it was a really silly idea. We being the rest of the family, all entrepreneurs. It was exciting. It's like starting a snow cone stand or something. We thought, it was a cool little idea. My parents, I recall, they just wanted to, pay rent on the new building, I think was sort of their goal, the offset cost. And so that was 2009, 2010, 2011. Sales increase, over the years. Very healthy little business. Fun, exciting, but we have to remember we're local entrepreneurs in the area, and if you've ever built a business in your hometown, you know how easy it is to market to a lifetime of relationships. Right. And so we thought, Marty, we thought we were just selling iced tea to locals that knew us and were friends of our other businesses. Right. And we were very skeptical of the brand. And if you've ever been in a store, you've never seen anything like it, and you'll again, this was, 14 years ago at this point. Okay. So we thought it was just, a cool little business. But we decided in 2012 to partner. I went in partnership with my parents full-time in prototype development mode to build a freestanding Starbucks sort of, if you will, but only selling iced tea, little retail business. And that was sort of where we started in 2012. We went and built a prototype. And our goal was to spend as much money as humanly possible to build a really cool experience and a really good product. We had no designs on profitability. We figured we could engineer profits. We just wanted to go see, is this real? Is this because we're local marketers, or is this because it's a real concept? Right. And so that's what we set out to do. We built that prototype store in 2012. And we had, it was under the trademark Texas Tea, which we have right to only in our hometown. And so we kind of went that route, built the second store, prototype, stood it up. It's now still in our top 5 in sales. We have 80 locations open today, ish, right around 80. We're open 3 on Friday. That actually takes us to 78 or 79, but rounding up there, 80 stores open. We do have about 10 or 12 non-traditional. So if you want to, store numbers, we have 92 or 3 stores that are open. But so we opened that prototype store, and then that was 2012, and then we started to believe in the concept. But again, if you've ever also started a business where you needed the income, the business never wasn't built correctly. It was built to pay bills. It wasn't built to be a national brand or a scalable model. And of course, from day one, every decision we made was to build a national brand. So the story goes on. I'd love to share more of it with you if we had time. We went into this phase where we had to solve the trademark issue because there was a trademark that had been issued shortly after we started using the marks. We couldn't use Texas Tea nationwide. We attempted to license that name, which I think we were very successful in doing. And then on the side, we started building an alternative brand, HTeaO. We went through an arduous process of deciding what the brand should look like if we couldn't use Texas Tea. We ultimately decided HTeaO was a better mark. We started solving several other problems with the business, one being supply chain. You can't go to a food service provider or a convenience store, sort of retail, wholesale food service concept and supply this store with what we need. We had to stand up our own supply chain. So anything with a barcode on it, which we sell, Yeti coolers and Pelican coolers and Cotton Bar, Cliff Bar, Pop Chip, Kettle Chip. We sell all the latest and greatest in snack products as well as some other retail products. You can't get that from a food service company, but they don't sell these teas, right? So we had to go manufacture our own tea and build our own flavor profiles. And, of course, just on and on and on. And you got to, in the context of this whole development, everyone's like, wow, HTeaO, man, you guys came out of nowhere. Well, really, we came out of 14 years of blood, sweat, and tears. And it looks like we came out of nowhere. But, I'm not satisfied with the growth trajectory, and I'm not a growth-driven person. I want my growth is to support existing franchise partners and existing locations to penetrate markets and overcome obscurity. But back up to that prototype store, we still didn't believe in the brand, and of course we had lots of interest. If you've ever walked in our store, you'll see why it's so appealing. It's a very exciting, colorful. We hit all the senses when you walk in. And not to mention the tea is absolutely incredible. So you'll walk in and go, wow, what is this? Where am I? We're a retail store. Half of our transactions walk in the door, half through the drive-through. And then, and so we still didn't believe in it. So this is 2012. We opened that first freestanding store in 2014. And so just to restate it, 2009 was the first store. 2014 was the first freestanding prototype. And from 2014 on, we went to work building back-end infrastructure to build a national brand. And that doesn't compute for most people, but here's what we did. I'm a home builder. I'm a real estate developer. I'm a restaurateur. And so you think, everything there. You have all the tools it takes to build a restaurant brand. Well, the problem is I didn't know anything about franchising. Nothing about. I'm an entrepreneur. I have 22 companies right now. They all sort of, live and eat and breathe on their own and do their own thing. And lots support some of our other companies, but they all sort of live on their own. But I knew nothing about franchising, so I bought a franchise concept that I'd like to keep, remain nameless. I opened a 3-store package, became a franchisee, started to learn everything I could about franchising in general. Started to consult mentors, and all while my stores are just kicking butt, and I have an extreme interest in franchising from the outside. Knowing we're first to market ahead of a trend, I have to use the franchise model. Don't know anything about it, but there's no way I could stand the company up as fast as it needs to go with a corporate structure. Franchising provides so many other benefits beyond just corporate structures. To leverage thousands of smart, in most cases, moderately successful or largely successful entrepreneurs that have a lifetime of experience, and to extract best practices from that is not the least of the benefits from the franchise model. So it's obvious. There's no question we have to franchise. Became a franchisee. I learned what it was like to have a royalty sucked out of my bank account like a magic trick on Friday. That's an emotional experience. If you've never had it happen, I wanted to feel that. I wanted to feel what it was like to have a regional district manager in my store after I've invested millions of dollars telling me what I can't sell, right? needed to fill all those things, I thought. So then we went to work building an FDD. I hired the most amazing franchise attorney on the planet, in my opinion. We spent a year working through the FDD. She thought I was absolutely crazy. She's like, "You're going to build a tea? You're going to sell tea?" And that's what we get that less these days. But for the first few years, we got it constantly. We went to work building the FDD. So just to give you the timeline, 2009 was the first store. 2012 we partnered with my parents. 2014 opened the first freestanding prototype. And from August of 2014 until January of 2018, we went really slow to go really fast. And what I mean by that is I became a franchisee. I opened 3 stores. I started to learn what I could about. I have an amazing concept. Yeah. I could have thrown it out there, Marty. We could have sold a franchise in 5 minutes. But I knew nothing. And so we went slow to go fast, went and built this back-end infrastructure. I had a full-time franchise development department, recruited one of the most amazing franchise development reps on planet Earth. I call him the Michael Jordan of Frandev. And just an absolute genuine human being that cares about people and absolutely is an entrepreneur at heart, loves every minute of his job. And so when you talk to him, his name's Andrew Hawes, he's our Chief Development Officer. Yeah. When you talk to Andrew, you feel in his soul that he wants you to be successful. And I think that's one of the keys from a franchise development officer. And what you find when you call these other franchises is you're talking to a salesperson, and the salesperson wants to collect a franchise development fee from you. Right. We don't. Thankfully, we've been blessed to where we don't have to rely on that friend every. We didn't have to rely on it for very long, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I know that that's difficult. And there's a balance between collecting Frandev fees and really vetting good partners, because you have to have the revenue to pay the bills. So I get it. But thankfully, we were able to be very objective with our choices in franchise partners, and we've done a great job. I think we have over 1,000 partners, if you want to count the names of the principals on the entities that are involved at this point. We've made very few mistakes, so really good, able to be objective and protect the brand, protect the culture. But back to the timeline, we went slow to go fast. We opened our first HTeaO in January of 2018. We opened that location about 300 miles from the original location. Okay. I wanted a new store, new town, new market, new customer, new logo, new everything. Yeah. Finally, I had to prove this concept to myself before we signed a single franchise agreement, because this is a permanent decision. This is marrying a system that you cannot divorce. Yes. This is a lifetime decision. So we knew that. We had to prove the concept. We went to Midland, Texas, opened our first store in January of 2018. Full-time Frandev on staff, full-time real estate, full-time construction, nothing to build, nothing to sell. A full-blown FDD, full-blown ops manual, an ops team. Everything was in place. And I realized this isn't easy to finance. We didn't do this with millions of dollars. We had enough money to pay these people for about 6 months was all. I mean, we literally went all in to build it, to go slow to go fast, to build the infrastructure. We built the church for Easter Sunday, if you will, to a degree. Yeah. And it was with faith that it would work, but also I was very, very skeptical, and there was no chance I was signing a franchise agreement with anyone if we didn't prove ourselves in this new market. Right. We launched in January 2018. That first store, we signed our first franchise agreement on May the 4th. We waited those 90 days. I had 25 franchise agreements in the hopper, ready to go, ready to sign. Wow. We did not sign those until May 4th of 2018, until we were blocking traffic in the street on the street we were on, and the city of Midland, the police department put in a sign that said, "Do not block traffic." I wouldn't let our team sell a franchise and sign that first agreement. Thankfully, that first franchise partner has fulfilled a 6-store deal over many years and has just signed a new franchise agreement for several more stores. We have 80 stores open, brick and mortar stores open, another 15 or 20 non-traditional stores in some other markets, and then I have 100 stores under construction And then we have another 100 immediate development franchise agreements actively hunting real estate at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, I think that covers it. But I see these other franchises, and I know how hard it is. But we had to prove the concept, and we had to build that infrastructure. And that's the short version, man. How'd I do?
That's it, right? But I love how you tell this story, Justin, because again, you were there in the beginning, and you're so passionate. I love how you use the expression, you went slow to go fast, because somebody who might be unfamiliar with HTeaO, they look at your business and they think, right, it's an overnight success. But it's like, if you've ever heard of the iceberg principle, people only see the top of the iceberg. They don't get to see the bottom of the iceberg, all the work and the labor and the time that went into, building this amazing concept. One of the questions I really wanted to ask you, because I told a couple of people I was interviewing you today, is the name is very clever. Who gets credit for the name HTeaO? I thought it was brilliant.
Good question. When we opened that first Texas Tea, there was not a trademark issue. In fact, it never occurred to us that you could trademark a geographic name. Okay. So we did in the first store, we were just trying to pay rent on a piece of real estate.
Right.
Not long after that, there was a trademark filed. So immediately when I decided to partner with my parents in 2012, I knew we had to build an alternative name to go nationwide. We didn't own the mark.
Right.
We had the mark in the original area, and the natural development area is how the law is sort of written, and that has to be litigated. Determine the boundaries of. So we're confident we own it in our hometown, but we don't own it anywhere else. And so we knew we had to either license that name or come up with a new name. So there's a conference room in our classroom right now, right behind the wall by where I'm sitting, that has literal blood, sweat, and tears on it. And we sat there for years. Ideating on this name and this brand. Yeah. If I told you the five contenders for the name, you'd fall out of your chair. The HTeaO name, when I heard it, I don't remember who said it. It was in a collaborative think tank group where we were just talking about branding. I knew instantly that was going to be a contender, but didn't believe in it. I'm very skeptical. I'm a realist. I like to run the route. I don't know if you ever played baseball, but if you're standing at the plate, you want to stand there thinking yes until you decide that ball's not in range and you say no. But I run the routes fully. I get in trouble for this all the time. They're like, but you said, and I said, no, what I did was I agreed with you until I didn't, right? I want to hear everything you have to say. And if we can decide, when we get done running the route, we can decide if it's the right choice. And so HTeaO, it sounded great in the beginning, but until we got to the finish line in 750 logo designs. I'm not exaggerating whatsoever.
That's incredible.
750 logo designs. It was until I saw the logo that I believe in the name. And then I knew the minute I saw the logo, I knew I could go negotiate the license deal without fear because I had solid backup. And at the end of the day, I feel like that we got to the finish line. The principals for the owners of the mark, Texas Tea, they loved our brand. We loved their brand. We thought we could coexist and enhance each other. HTeaO was so powerful at the end, we decided to go with HTeaO. And that's the story. And so obviously it's a play on the H2O, the two in the T, and HTeaO. Even Siri pronounces it right, which is crazy.
That's incredible, isn't it?
one of the apps does not. One of them says something, but one of them pronounces it right. But it was crazy. Yeah, HTeaO, man, and we think it's the coolest brand that ever existed.
I think it's brilliant, Justin. When I read about it, what was interesting too, that I know because it's such a long history. I read even somewhere that you were even a pilot. And I guess it's you must have really believed in this concept too, right? To kind of stop doing what you were doing. And then come back to this, you realized there was an opportunity. And I know you're an entrepreneur. I mean, looking at your background, it's just incredible. You recognize an opportunity when you see it, but you had to realize there was something to stop being a pilot, which you're still a pilot today, of course. I'm sure you can still fly, but, you know, you certainly believed in the concept, didn't you?
We went all in, Marty. I've shed a tear about not flying professionally anymore. I flew professionally until October of 2015.
Yeah, I read that.
We have an aircraft management company and flew private jets for wealthy clients and businesses. And you know what flying airplanes did for me was imagine Monday morning you get up, you got your team, you're having a meeting, we got really important decisions to make, and then my cell phone rings. Yeah. And my client says, "Hey, we need to roll. We're going to go to Lake Tahoe and play golf. We need to be at the airport at 10." I'm like, okay. So this important team meeting in my company gets immediately paused so that we can go play golf. And that was not by my choice. I ran an aircraft management company, and one of the jets that we operated, I was the only pilot for. And so I learned how to run my businesses as a leader, not because I'd read a book or heard a good podcast, because I was forced to leave my team meetings to go play golf. And it was I had anxiety through the roof playing golf with my friends who were also my clients. But that was it, man. I was forced to learn how to become a leader. I was forced how to empower people to make decisions and not chop their head off when they failed. Give them the authority to run this company, but not kill them when they screw it up, because they screw it up every day, just like I do.
Right. If you and I were in an HTeaO right now, Justin, what are some of your favorites, or what would you recommend to me? You know, being my first time in one, you know, what would you recommend I get, or what would you order?
In the store, in the store when you walk in, it's self-serve. There's 26 flavors, refrigerated merchandisers. You have sample cups. You can walk through and sample every flavor. Oh, wow. There's about 400 flavors of half and half without duplication. Half of the flavors unsweet, half are sweet. You can literally create anything you want by just mixing two flavors. So, for instance, if you like sweet regular tea, but everyone makes it sweet, then you go put half sweet and half unsweet. Or if you like it unsweet, like I do, I try not to drink calories. All those years flying, that it's hard to keep the exercise level up. So I like to put lemon in it. We have 12 amazing unsweet flavors. We have coconut, sweet blueberry green, watermelon. We call it sweet Georgia peach. And so literally you can create anything you want. We have a secret menu. There's a birthday cake flavor that's a sweet almond green nut. There's all kinds of flavors that are fun and exciting, and everyone does it their own way. If you come through the drive-up, you just order, whatever flavor, half and half perhaps. And the coolest thing is we sell it by the gallon. So fresh gallons of any flavor, any half and half mix. I mean, our most popular flavor is coconut, sweet coconut or sweet blueberry green. Depends on where you're at. And so and then we have a brew house, which is like a coffee concept. We have a super espresso machine. We have our own coffee brand, and we have a Horchata iced coffee, which is amazing. Wow! And we also have we call it a liquid gold, which is an iced coffee, a sweet iced coffee. So there's something for everyone, and we do it better than everyone. In fact, we have tea lattes, and so you might want a chai tea latte. You're not going to get enough powder because the barista didn't mix that. It's our Texas chai sweet tea, and steamed for 14 seconds with the espresso machine with milk added, and you have a chai tea latte. My wife is a chai tea latte connoisseur, and she complained about it until it was perfect, and now it's her favorite on the planet. And so, man, there's something for everyone. And then, of course, like I said, the gallons and half gallons. We're a lifestyle brand. You'll find if you went to the Texas Tech game this weekend, or the OU game, or the University of Texas game, or the Baylor game, you would be in shock at how many Texas teacups you see in right now. And so it's just an amazing. It brings communities together. It's at every church function, every school function, every volleyball game, every fundraiser. It's at every tailgate. It's at every party, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. I mean, this is where we bring people together as a social brand, and that's the reason you'll find we're like 4.9 out of 5 stars at every location. That's not true, but we're very high, 4.7 to 4.9 at every location. We're bringing the community together. When you walk in, you can't do anything but smile. In fact, my chief people officer was a forensic interviewer in his previous life, and he used to come to Texas Tea to get relief from his day-to-day. And then he became, then he started running one of the stores. He got a degree in social work, ended up running one of the stores, and then he became our COO, and he's just recently been promoted to chief people officer. And I mean, this is just a place where you come to smile and you take that with you.
It's a very exciting time, Justin, for you and HTeaO. I was talking last night to my business students. We were talking about certain places like, Philadelphia is known for their cheesesteaks and New York has their bagels. And I was thinking of HTeaO. It sounds like you have the proprietary water filtration system. That's the key ingredient, or that's the secret recipe, isn't it?
It would blow your mind if I let you taste a glass of tea with another water. It would blow your mind. You wouldn't believe I was letting you. That you wouldn't believe I didn't put something in it to make it taste bad. It's unbelievable.
That's incredible. Maybe you could talk about how you're using technology today in the franchise, Justin, because I'm sure what you're doing today in terms of technology was certainly different back in the beginning, right? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
We're never happy. Technology is so difficult to integrate.
Yes, it is.
We're never happy. But that being said, we signed a contract to build an app before COVID. And we were thankfully in the queue and in development on a white label app from very, very prominent app developers in January of 2020, and everyone remembers the World in March 15th of 2020. And so thankfully we got that app built and we were up and running. Our mobile order and pay is still a canned white label, and it doesn't work correctly. It's not a great experience. We don't advertise it. We hope that nobody tries to use it. We're actually at the finish line of deciding how we're going to fix this app. It's a 7-figure project for phase 1. It's not easy to do this correctly, but we're committed. We're about to deploy the more resources than we've ever deployed on a single project without hesitation to build this app correctly. You look at our app today, it's got an amazing loyalty function, and the order function works. It's just cumbersome. And at the speed technology shifts, the world of apps were beating us the minute we launched. So we've just, it's just tough. And unfortunately, it's really difficult to afford an app if you're a startup. We're just now at a point where we can afford it or it makes sense. And we're just now at a point where it's going to make a major impact on our business. I mean, our frequency of our guests, it feels really high, but it's actually really low comparatively. And our AUVs, thank God, are more than adequate to maintain our real estate budgets, our occupancy budget. So thankfully, we have an adequate AUV, but we see huge white space in building the correct app. Of course, we use point-of-sale systems that are integrated with the KDA system, that are integrated with our accounting systems, and of course we have other platforms that integrate for reporting, and but none of it works, great. It's just technology is very difficult to integrate. I have softwares that we've owned for 5 years that we still don't use correctly. So although it is important, if you're trying to run FranDev without a CRM, you might as well just change careers because it's not work. You have to use CRM for FranDev, period, end of story. Not only because there's federal laws that you potentially could break if you don't do it correctly, but it's impossible. You cannot appropriately address the amount of concern someone has when they're about to invest millions of dollars without a CRM that can help you walk this process. It's not a quick process. When you're asking someone to deploy 7 figures to develop your concept that you own, but they have to invest in there's lots of questions, and technology on the brand dev side is everything. So not to mention, as you walk down the road, just fast forward if you're a startup and you're a friend in brand dev. Let's talk about this. On the day one you start, you got to go sign a lease somewhere. The landlord's never heard of your brand. Try telling them you're going to start a tea concept. If your financials and your balance sheet doesn't support paying rent with that store ever open, and you can get the landlord to consider that possibility, you might get approved for a lease. But then they're going to give you, let's say, a 5-year lease or a 10-year lease. And if you're really good at it, you're going to negotiate options to renew. Well, as a franchisor, what happens when you're 300 stores in and you start to have leases come up for expiration and you don't have technology to alert you that you're about to get kicked out of a store, or go through a time like COVID where this rapid inflation and rents are doubling in some cases? What if you miss this window to renew at a set rate accidentally, and the landlord says, yeah, of course you can stay there. We'll give you another 10 years at double the rent. What do? You pack your bags and go home because you can't afford that rent. So technology, everything, and when it comes to contract integrity, when it comes to lease integrity, but for sure in FranDev, CRM, and then the customer facing. I don't know I'm sure you know the stats. I'm sure you report them constantly, but the stats are absolutely mind-blowing when you look at how many of our competitors in the quick serve beverage industry rely on the app for half or more of their sales. It's absolutely unbelievable. Right.
Agreed. And I think, what's exciting for you too, Justin, is that, not all of the world yet tried HTeaO. And I saw a statistic or a KPI for your business. I think it was something like, you have a very high repeat sell factor. So once you get someone to try your product once, the repeat sale is very high. I saw a number like something like 80-something%, and I said, wow, that's very high. So, I said, what an exciting time for you because most of your businesses or franchises, I get that they're in the Texas area, I would imagine, right? Most of them are in that part of the country, but you're not everywhere yet in the United States. Obviously, you will be, at some point. But I said, what an exciting time for you. That's a pretty high number in terms of repeat sell factor, isn't it?
Absolutely. Unbelievable. That's why it took me so long to believe in the brand, because it was literally unbelievable. I watched all these customers just flow through our stores, and just stood there in awe on a daily basis, watching the traffic, and just couldn't believe it. And so, absolutely mind-blowing. Thank you for the compliment. It's not my fault, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's just a cool concept, first to market, ahead of a trend, and there's a lot of really secret weapons to the brand. And the cool thing is the amount of infrastructure it takes to brew is the volume of tea we brew is also mind-blowing, and so it's just really, really impossible to believe unless you see it for yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned franchising was new to you, Justin. So I'm curious, when you are taking on or considering a new franchisee, what's important to you? Is there any types of characteristics or traits that you say, okay, this individual would be a good match for our brand? Like, what's most important to you?
Easy to answer this question. There's lots of money that walks in the door every day.
Right.
Those are the least of my concerns. The only person I care about is the operator. The only person I want to interview is the operator. If we have a franchise development meeting or a discovery day and there's investors, we have when we do our discovery days, we have a speed dating where there's 5 executives, 5 meetings, and everybody gets 15 minutes with the candidates. And what you'll find is that the candidate comes in and all they want to talk about is how much money they have and how much experience they have.
Right.
And all I care about is who's going to love my customers when they walk in the door. That's the person I want to. I can't teach you how to love people. I can teach you how to pull levers. It's easy. Easy compared. Look, I can teach you how to fly a helicopter. I can teach you how to fly an airplane. I can teach you how to run a tea store. I can't teach you how to love people.
Right.
And so that's all I care about.
Right.
That's well said. I can teach the other things, man, but I can't measure grit in a meeting, and I can't teach you how to love people after you become a candidate. So, after you become a partner. And so that's all I care about. The financing, easy.
That's a great response.
Operational experience is relevant, but who's going to love my customer? That's all I care about.
Yeah. What's been, you've had thousands and thousands of experiences since being part of HTeaO, Justin. Difficult question, but what's one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since launching HTeaO? I imagine one of them is just seeing, how far, that the brand has come. But does anything really stand out over the years? Considering you have probably 100 stories, but something that you kind of say, wow.
It's every day. Wow. Every day. I'm not really good at celebrating, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yesterday we had a company-wide meeting, and we did some pretty incredible personnel shifting. We moved a lot of people around, promoted most of everyone that moved, and just to stand at the front of this room and speak to our. Listen, we did a Discovery Day, twice a month. We're always in front of people. I love to talk about HTeaO.
Yeah.
But, literally in tears yesterday, standing there talking to this team of people that has literally given their blood, sweat, and tears to this brand. I have to say, though, without a doubt, the coolest thing that's happened to me was we recruited and partnered with a minority private equity group in December. This partnership was cultivated over a year. In my mind, I always knew I'd have to raise a little money to grow the speed that we're growing. We were always financially stable, had very little debt, had lots of cash, always had. But I knew there was some point where I was going to have to recruit some partners to finance this growth. And my parents are partners, and I'd love for them to take a little bit of the retirement, path. My mom, they're on their way to Seattle right now for vacation. That's what I wanted. But the coolest part of all of this was to invite my employees to become equity holders in the company. And so essentially everyone that was employed within a couple of months of the closing of that private equity deal became equity holders. And non-voting preferred equity stockholders in the company. That's the coolest part of this whole thing for me. It was it was always something we talked about. I tried not to promise it, but it was always a dream of mine. Yeah. My goal personally in the private equity deal was to own more of the company, to give my parents a little more stability in their retirement, and to let my employees participate in the ownership of the company. And that was by far the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. So very exciting, very exciting for that. And like I said, every day I pinch myself. But listen, I don't know if you know what this means, but we're carrying the boats and the logs every single day. Every day we get up and carry boats and logs. And it's 80% of things that we don't want to do and 20% of the things that are super fun. And that's the team. Nobody's financially motivated beyond what everyone has to get paid. We all have financial goals, but we're here to build an amazing brand and to make a difference above our customers and our people.
That's great. What now that you're involved in franchising, Justin, you're mentioning, it is certainly a different animal. It's always a challenge sometimes for a brand to say, okay, we're going to start franchising, and then you realize, you say, wow, this is a lot harder. I thought from everything you've learned up to this point, because the majority of our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. Most of them have it in their mind. They want to get into franchising, but I think today, I just recently saw a number. They said it's something like there's like 3,500 to 4,000 different systems to choose from just in the U.S. alone. I mean, from everything you've learned about franchising up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners then in their quest to buy a franchise? Because you have so much experience in entrepreneurship and now franchising. So what would you say to them?
You burn 70% of your fuel going the first mile. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the spaceship or a rocket burns out its fuel, gets the atmosphere, and then it's super easy to go. And it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but there are several fundamental milestones you have to hit as a franchisee or a franchisor. As a franchisee, one store is hard, 2 stores is harder, 3 stores is easier.
Wow.
And so from an infrastructure standpoint, personnel mapping, provided you're not geographically separated by, 1,000 miles, 1 store hard, 2 stores harder, 3 stores easier. From a franchisor's perspective, you have to become royalty sufficient. Yeah. And if you expect to take a paycheck, you're unrealistic with your expectations.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying you have to work for free. You just need to build that into the requirements to stand this company up. And you have to have realistic expectations for the time it takes to go from zero to royalty sufficient. And if you can't get there, or you can't get there quick, you have a very low chance of survival. And so we're 50 stores deep when we become royalty sufficient. Right. And think about how hard it is to how hard it is to go as a franchisor to open 50 stores.
Right.
It's almost impossible. Yeah. And so you have to have proper expectations, and I encourage you to try. Yeah. The problem is that everyone overestimates what they can do in 1 year and underestimates what they can do in 10 years. Everyone overestimates what they can accomplish in 1 year. Wow. You can't go buy the car or the watch. Right. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, you have to have that mind. You have to carry the boats and the logs every day. Yeah, that's great. It's great advice, Justin, for our listeners. So there was one time where I don't know if you ever read, there's a gentleman, Michael Gerber, he wrote a book called The E-Myth Revisited, and he said to me, he's fantastic. He said to me on the show, he goes, most entrepreneurs don't fail because they think too big, but they think too small. When I think of HTeaO, I mean, I see this, and I'm sure you see the big picture. I mean, this to me, I mean, is of course it's national, but it's international as well. So, I mean, I should ask you because you're the CEO, but I mean, where do you see HTeaO, whether it's 1 year or 3 years or 5 years down the road? What's your vision? The vision is to support the partners on the fringe. And what I mean by that is when you open a store in Florida, you can't open just one store in Florida. Right. And so as we grow, there will always be a fringe. It never stops. Yeah. It never. And so I don't get to choose our trajectory. That's already chosen for me. We have to build profitable stores and support the franchise partners on the fringe. All decisions at HTeaO are on unit level economics, and we have to support those partners on the fringe. So that's where my head is. It has nothing to do with some arbitrary financial goal. What will that look like? I mean, I have data. I can look at trailing 6, trailing 12, trailing 18. I can tell you that we expect to be at hundreds of stores by a certain date. HTeaO is a permanent brand. HTeaO is a powerful permanent brand. The economics are such that the break even is well, for me, the economics are such. I mean, unfortunately, I can't actually disclose any financial information other than on sales and AP, which is what's public. But when let's just say that we can afford a little bit more real estate than a normal restaurant. I don't know how else to say it, but our budgets are a little. A normal restaurant's looking for 6 to 8% occupancy. We're shooting for 10. Okay. So, but the growth is, I mean, it's thousands of stores. I mean, there's no way to stop. It would be irresponsible for us to stop the growth because there's always going to be someone on the fringe. So, all boats rise with the tide. We have to continue to support the brand. That'll never, ever stop. I mean, obviously, we're we see thousands of stores in the future. I mean,
yeah. And would that be international too, Jeff? I mean, do you see, I see, Japan, Australia, but I mean, again, that's maybe the 10-year picture.
Yeah, I mean, that would be another one of those, decisions like we had the night before.
Right, going back to the beginning. Right.
Yeah. Right now we're focused on south of I-40 from Phoenix to the East Coast up to Virginia. Okay. I mean, we're looking at Arizona, Coastal Bend, Florida, East Coast. I mean, obviously, people love tea. We have been successful with our brew house in some colder climates. I mean, our hometown Amarillo is at 3,700 feet. We're halfway between Albuquerque and Oklahoma City on I-40. Okay. It gets really cold in Amarillo, and we still have people there at 7 a.m. buying big, huge iced teas. So, but now with the brew house, we have some warm beverages, lots of hot tea options, and we see the possibility. I can't say that we just are dying to go outside of where we belong, right?
Sure.
But I think it's logical. I mean, we've done some survey stuff that takes us all the way into Virginia. That's very, very positive. There's just a lot of opportunity or white space for us, but we don't really have goals that far out. Again, we're just trying to support franchise partners and make good decisions.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. What's the best way, Justin, for our listeners to get more information on HTeaO? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but even the product itself. Is there any websites you can direct them to?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few articles. There's several podcasts that I've done. So go to my LinkedIn page. I think I have links to several podcasts. Yeah. I'll put this one on there as well.
That's great.
HTeaO.com, obviously HTeaO.com, and there's a franchising tab. We're always overhauling the website. There's still lots of really good information on there. And our franchise development team loves to talk to anyone. So if they'll reach out through the website, fill out the form, you'll get a call back, relatively quick, and there's lots of information there. But look, what I tell people to do is Google HTeaO, HTeaO, click images, and start scrolling. That's the elevator pitch. I don't tell them we sell tea. I don't tell them we're the Starbucks of iced tea. I don't tell them. I tell them to Google HTeaO, click images, and start scrolling.
Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Justin. Typically, these interviews go like 30 minutes, and I still probably have another 100 questions. So I would love to invite you back over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I think this is a wonderful brand, and I've done so many of these interviews, and this has become one of my favorites. So congratulations.
You bet. Anytime.
This has been my pleasure, Justin, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in our next segment, we're going to be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com. Or you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. We've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today's great quote in franchising comes from Tom Kraus, the CEO of Donato's Pizza. And Donato's is a family-owned, privately held company that treats franchise partners like they're part of their family. In this Great Quote in Franchising podcast, Tom discusses the importance of directing your energy to the right place and uses a great analogy called batteries not included. So let's go right into our podcast with Tom Kraus, CEO of Donato's Pizza. What advice would you give them in their quest to buy a franchise?
I think the the whole key is putting the right resources in the right spot. So I'll use a quote from one of my old bosses at Wendy's, Jim Neer, who he always talked about batteries not included. And what he meant by that was, you know, if you're going to be a franchisee or a franchise partner, as we call them, you're buying into a system that exists. So don't put your energy trying to change the system or change the recipe or like work that side of the system. Put your energy in bringing your whole self into the business. Bring your energy into leading your people. Bring the energy into building the business in the community or giving back to the community. I've noticed those that are less successful don't put their energy into that, but they're trying to revise something that already is a part of the operating plan that, you know, maybe it's not perfect, but if you're spending your time trying to change the recipe or the operating system, maybe franchising isn't what you want to do. Maybe you want to start your own restaurant. And so I think the key, but more importantly, I think is batteries aren't included. So put your whole energy into building a culture within the organization and building a reputation in the community. That's where you'll win every time. You'll win every time.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I love that analogy, batteries not included. It's about trust, isn't it, Tom? You know, I mean, if you're going to invest into a system, you know, like Donato's, is you have to have that level of trust, don't you? You know, in order to.
Yeah, you really do. And you know, it's not to say that, you know, we really do a lot of collaborating with our franchise system. We have an advisory council, and we meet regularly, and we get advice from them, and they help guide the business. But once we've decided, you know, what the program is or whatever, let's go ahead and just execute that program. So
Right. Absolutely. That's fantastic. If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Tom Krause of Donato's Pizza, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchises listed alphabetically page, and then go to the D section. Or you can go to our franchises listed by category page and go to our food section. And lastly, we'd just like to thank everyone for making our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast such a big hit. Since we've launched our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast, we've had 72,671 downloads, 37,888 RSS clicks, and 727 shared links. So once again, we'd just like to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.